Hi, I'm Peter Martin. I'm Executive Vice Chair of Essential Christian, and for many years, for 13 years, I was the group's Chief Executive, and that came about because I was working with another organisation in partnership with Spring Harvest, and we merged the two operations together. So my role now is very much more an ambassadorial role, working with patrons and guiding us through the maze that is charity functionality at times.
Over those years, you must have seen a few things. Do you have one or two favourite stories you could tell us?
I think the greatest thing for me has always been to see the salvation moments. And that every year for the last 5 years, we've seen on average 1,000 people come to faith. That is across all age group. And there was nothing greater than the 7:30 early morning prayer meeting to hear stories from the youth leaders and children's leaders to say, yesterday we saw this amount of children give their hearts to Jesus. And that's across these years.
How would you characterise what it's brought to you? How has it enriched your life over these 30 odd years?
I think I can sum it up by saying, giving a life of service has meant an abundance of receiving. God is greater than all we've ever planned.
And what do you think is the most appealing thing about the Spring Harvest ministry?
Events like Spring Harvest, not exclusively just Spring Harvest, have been of absolute importance to the growth of the church in the UK over the last decades. And Spring Harvest has been a catalyst for bringing the tribes together and the nations together from all denominations. Today it serves the small to mid-sized church, and from that we have seen enormous growth. And out of this pandemic particularly, in a new season, we need to see the church in this area, in the UK, standing and growing and being effective. And I think Spring Harvest has an immense role to play in doing that, whether that be through hybrid events, such as physical and online, or whether it's just physical. I think Spring Harvest's role going into the future is imperative to see church growth in the UK.
It's 2022, we've all been vaccinated. How important is it that we meet together again in person?
I think it's really important. I think it's exciting. I think there's a pent-up frustration that we haven't been able to come together to worship. I think in many ways people have had more teaching than they've ever had, because teaching is aplenty online. But what you can't do is corporate worship.
Describe the coming together of different church traditions being one of Spring Harvest's strengths. How have you seen that?
The diversity, and not only that, we have now more from the black majority churches that are coming through, and I think that is important for us to make sure we have every aspect of the evangelical church involved with Spring Harvest. To be honest with you, I come from a background where I don't mind and I don't care whether you're Anglican, Baptist, United Reformed, whatever your background is, as long as we can come together from all these tribes to worship the one true Jesus, and we come in spirit and truth. I think it's amazing. I think that's what it's going to be like in heaven. I'm not saying Spring Harvest it's going to be like Spring Harvest in heaven, but what I am saying is that the joining of everybody together, what matters is what's within our heart with Jesus, doesn't it, at the end of the day? And I think Spring Harvest has been the catalyst to enable people just to come together. And just recently we were having a talk with the Elim Church, and they were just saying the one thing that we love about Spring Harvest is that we see the breadth of the Christian family coming together. That's a strength which nobody else seems to achieve.
And you obviously have had the challenge of 2 Spring Harvests now being online. How has that been for you?
So coming out of COVID was great the first year because so many people supported us and gave us the financial support that we needed. To have this a second time has been more challenging, I have to admit, and we're living in faith for what God has for us going forward. There will be challenges and we do need to meet those, but I believe God's still got a great purpose for Spring Harvest going into 2022 and how we rebuild His church together.
Could you just bring that alive for me? Is there some way that God has blessed you over the years?
Being part of Spring Harvest has seen an immense amount of activity happen, and to see lives saved has been absolutely wonderful. About 1,000 every year is our estimation, and that has been absolutely fantastic to see.